Breaking news. A grainy security camera clip has just shaken the locker room to its core. Mere hours before Money in the Bank 2025, Randy Orton cornered Roman Reigns in a dim backstage corridor and delivered 5 words that could rewrite the night. "Let me help you, Roman." In an instant, the once unthinkable prospect of the Viper joining forces with the tribal chief ignited shockwaves across social media, leaving Paul Heyman scrambling for answers. With Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, and Bronson Reed currently ruling the upper card, an Orton-Reigns pact could tilt WWE's balance of power in one ruthless stroke. Yet every alliance with Orton carries a serpent's bite. Is this a genuine offer of solidarity, or the first move in a carefully laid trap? One thing is certain, the path to Money in the Bank just became far more treacherous, and the entire WWE Universe is holding its breath for the fallout. "Let me help you, Roman." 5 words. Whispered, but deafening. 5 words. Captured on grainy security footage in a dark hallway backstage at the O2 Arena in London. 5 words. Spoken by Randy Orton, the apex predator. A man who's made a career out of trust turned treachery. And they were directed at Roman Reigns, the tribal chief. The man who's ruled WWE with an iron fist, shattered families, exiled allies, and turned even his bloodline into pawns. Hours before the 2025 Money in the Bank pay-per-view, the world of professional wrestling shifted under our feet. Not because of a match. Not because of a title change. But because of a moment. A moment not broadcast. A moment not scripted. A moment that wasn't supposed to be seen. But it was seen. Security footage leaked. And the internet did the rest. In that blurry clip, Randy Orton walks up to Roman Reigns. No words for the cameras. No lights. Just cold cement, tense silence, and one sentence that's now set the WWE Universe on fire: "Let me help you, Roman." At first, people thought it had to be fake. A fan edit. AI-generated footage. A hoax. But then WWE didn't deny it. Then Fightful, WrestleVotes, and Busted Open Radio began picking it up. Then Paul Heyman reacted, and if you know anything about Heyman, you know the man never blinks unless it's part of a plan. What makes this even more shocking isn't just that it happened, but when. This isn't Orton offering Roman backup 6 months ago. This is hours before Roman steps into one of the most unpredictable matches of the year. Roman Reigns, arguably the most dominant, paranoid, and cornered version we've ever seen, is suddenly approached by a man known for blindsiding friends, burning allies, and sinking his venom into the heart of empires. And here's the real kicker: there's no bloodline left. No Usos. No Solo. Just Roman Reigns, and now, maybe, Randy Orton. In a landscape already crawling with sharks, Seth Rollins on a redemption rampage, Bron Breakker ready to bulldoze the future, Bronson Reed gunning for violent validation. What does it mean if Roman and Randy form an unholy union? Let's make this plain: if Reigns and Orton join forces, this isn't just bad news for the locker room. It's a code red for WWE. It's the kind of story that collapses factions, twists alliances, and defines eras. So, what is happening here? That's what this video is going to uncover. We're diving deep into the context of why Randy Orton would approach Roman now. What this alliance could mean for the structure of WWE's power. Whether this was a genuine offer, or a meticulously laid trap. What it tells us about Roman's mental state heading into Money in the Bank. And how this could completely alter the landscape going into SummerSlam and beyond. We'll examine body language, past betrayals, current motivations, and what insiders and fans alike are saying. You're going to see every angle. Every possible outcome. And by the end, you'll have the full picture of why 5 quiet words spoken backstage may end up being the loudest thing said in WWE all year. So, here's the question that's going to haunt you the rest of this video: did Randy Orton come to save Roman Reigns, or to end him? Strap in. Because if you think you've seen all the twists WWE has to offer, you haven't seen this one. London. June 29, 2025. The O2 Arena is buzzing long before the first pyrotechnic explodes or theme music hits. This isn't just another pay-per-view. This is Money in the Bank. One of WWE's most chaotic and career-shaping nights of the year. The briefcase is hanging above the ring, but everyone knows, it's not just the ladder match that's drawing attention this time. It's everything else swirling around it. The locker room isn't just tense. It's fractured. Alliances are brittle. Backstage politics are running hot. And above it all, like a storm cloud ready to burst, stands Roman Reigns. Roman isn't the same tribal chief from 2021 or 2022. The smug confidence is still there, but the structure around him has cracked. The bloodline, once an unshakable dynasty, is now nothing more than a memory. The Usos? Estranged. Solo Sikoa? Rumors are swirling that he's forming his own faction and is no longer answering Roman's calls. Paul Heyman? Still by Roman's side, but for how long? Even his once loyal Wiseman seems shaken by recent developments. Roman Reigns is powerful. But power without loyalty becomes a liability. And Roman knows it. Since WrestleMania, Roman has been defending more than just his title, he's been defending his legacy. His dominance is being questioned. His aura is under siege. And the biggest threat? It's not just the guys in the ring. It's the empty spaces around him. Where his family used to be. Where trust used to live. WWE Creative has leaned hard into the paranoia arc, Roman showing up less, brooding more. Staring down cameras as if they're keeping secrets from him. Backstage segments are colder, quieter, shorter. Every step Roman takes feels like it could be his last as champion, not because of who he's fighting, but because of what he's fighting: isolation. Now contrast that with the other looming players. Seth Rollins is riding a wave of renewed momentum. After suffering a brutal loss at WrestleMania, Rollins reinvented himself once again, mixing his flamboyant fashion and cult leader charisma with an ice-cold edge. He's no longer content being the architect. He's out to burn the entire structure down and build his own from the ashes. He wants what Roman has, but more importantly, he wants to do what Roman never could: rule without losing himself. Then there's Bron Breakker. Explosive. Violent. Unapologetic. A juggernaut built in a lab of destruction. Breakker has been tearing through the mid-card like a buzzsaw. Management knows it. The audience knows it. And most importantly, Breakker knows it. He's been sending a message for weeks, and it's been loud and clear: the new era won't wait for permission. It's going to take what it wants, starting with whoever's standing in the way. And that means Roman Reigns. Bronson Reed is another name that doesn't get thrown around enough in this conversation, but he should. The big man has found his groove lately, and he's been doing it with brutal efficiency. He's not flashy. He's not loud. But he's effective, and in a company that thrives on unpredictability, Reed's reliability in squashing opposition has made him a quiet favorite to cause chaos. He's the kind of competitor who doesn't need a faction or a gimmick. He's just dangerous. So where does all this leave Roman? Backed into a corner. Alone. Still champion, but walking through a minefield of threats, each one more credible than the last. Which brings us to the question no one thought we'd have to ask: what happens when Roman Reigns, the untouchable, undisputed head of the table, starts looking for help? And not just any help. Help from Randy Orton. Before we go there, though, it's important to understand why the air backstage is so thick with unease. Wrestlers aren't just watching the match cards anymore, they're watching each other. Power isn't just about titles now. It's about visibility. Influence. Positioning. And those stakes have never been higher than they are at Money in the Bank 2025. Because here's the thing about the briefcase: it's not just a contract. It's a declaration of war. And no one wants to be unaligned when the war starts. We've seen subtle shifts over the past few months. Factions teasing reunions. Tag teams whispering strategy in dark corners. Veterans being more visible backstage than usual. When someone like John Cena makes a comment about unfinished business on a podcast, people notice. When Cody Rhodes posts a cryptic message about loyalty over legacy on social media, people start connecting dots. The vibe is unstable. The hierarchy is fluid. The glass ceiling is shaking, and no one knows who's going to break it, or who's going to be buried beneath it. Now imagine being Roman Reigns in this moment. Imagine being the man who once stood at the center of WWE's gravitational pull, only to feel the orbit weakening. The bloodline is gone. The ring isn't just a battleground, it's a trap with every side exposed. And then, suddenly, Randy Orton walks in from the shadows. Randy. The Viper. The legend killer. The man who once punted every ounce of loyalty straight out of his soul. The guy who doesn't align. Who waits. Who strikes. Who disappears, then reappears when the ecosystem is ripe for manipulation. Randy Orton isn't the cavalry. He's the chess master in a game full of checkers. So why now? Why Roman? That's the question that's making everyone backstage nervous. Because when Orton reemerges, it's never without reason. It's never without strategy. And most importantly, it's never without collateral damage. Which means this encounter between Orton and Reigns wasn't just a hallway conversation. It was a signal. To the locker room. To the fans. To every contender in the building. A signal that everything is about to change. And just like that, the temperature backstage dropped. People started whispering. Trainers stopped what they were doing. Producers checked their phones. Security reviewed tape. Because when Randy Orton says he wants to help Roman Reigns, it doesn't feel like a lifeline. It feels like a warning. This isn't about friendship. It's about control. And control is the one thing Roman Reigns doesn't have anymore. As Money in the Bank looms, no one's sure what this new development means. But everyone's sure of one thing, the atmosphere has shifted. The tension in the air? That's not just adrenaline. That's fear. And the match hasn't even started yet. Randy Orton doesn't knock. He never has. He doesn't wait for the right moment. He creates it. For nearly 2 decades, Randy Orton has been the embodiment of calm destruction. While others yell, run, pose, and preach, Orton slithers into position. Cold. Quiet. Calculated. That's why when he emerged on security footage with Roman Reigns, saying those now infamous words, no one should have been surprised. And yet, everyone was. Because Orton isn't supposed to be here. Not now. Not like this. He wasn't advertised for Money in the Bank. He wasn't on the card. He wasn't even rumored to be in London. But suddenly, there he was. Hood up, arms crossed, eyes locked on the most powerful man in wrestling. Like a lion entering a battlefield, not to fight, but to offer terms. Let me help you, Roman. 5 words. But when they come from Randy Orton, 5 words carry the weight of legacy, betrayal, and decades of mind games. Let's rewind. Randy Orton hasn't been a regular on WWE programming since late 2023. Back issues, compounded by years of brutal matches, had sidelined him. For a while, there were whispers he might be done for good. That his final RKO had already been delivered. But Orton doesn't exit quietly. He returns with purpose, or he doesn't return at all. His surprise reappearance at WrestleMania 41, where he dropped a perfectly timed RKO on Austin Theory during an open challenge, signaled something bigger. He looked leaner. Focused. Not the apex predator of 2011 who feasted on chaos for fun, but a more dangerous version. One with patience. Since then, he's kept a low profile. A couple of matches. One brutal one-off against Gunther that ended in a draw. 2 interviews that said almost nothing but felt like everything. One quote, though, stuck with people: "Sometimes the only way to protect what matters is to destroy everything else first." At the time, it sounded cryptic. Now? It sounds like a mission statement. Because here's the truth about Orton: he doesn't move without motive. He doesn't insert himself into stories that don't serve him. Which raises a question more unsettling than his presence backstage: what exactly is Orton after? Let's start with the obvious. Roman Reigns is vulnerable. Not physically, perhaps, but psychologically. The bloodline is gone. The title is still his, but the armor has cracks. Orton knows a wounded king when he sees one. And what does a viper do when it spots blood? It coils. It waits. Then it strikes. But what if this isn't about striking? That's what has everyone off balance. Because Randy Orton has nothing to prove. He's already a 14-time world champion. He's headlined every major show. He's betrayed every friend he's ever had. He doesn't need Roman. Or does he? The truth might be more layered. Let's consider where Orton fits in the current WWE landscape. The company is younger, faster, louder. Guys like Breakker and Reed are rising through brute force. LA Knight is riding charisma. Rollins is riding rage. And Roman? Roman has power. But Orton? He has history. And that history doesn't age unless it evolves. So maybe this isn't about alliance or betrayal. Maybe it's about relevance. Orton's looking at the chessboard, and for the first time in years, he doesn't see himself as a king or a knight. He sees himself as a kingmaker. And Roman Reigns is the last piece left that still means something. Which brings us back to their conversation. It's been dissected endlessly. Fans have tried reading Orton's lips in the grainy footage. Analysts have broken down Roman's reaction like it's a CIA debrief. But you don't need high resolution to understand what's happening. What we saw was respect cloaked in tension. Two predators circling the same carcass. Not enemies. Not friends. Something more dangerous, equals with different appetites. Roman's body language? Defensive but not dismissive. He didn't push Orton away. He didn't turn his back. He listened. That's significant. And Orton? He wasn't smirking. He wasn't threatening. He looked deliberate. That's scarier than rage. Because when Orton loses his temper, he punts people's skulls in. But when he's calm, that's when he burns everything down. Let's talk psychology for a moment. Randy Orton is, by his own admission, a slow burn killer. He's admitted in interviews that he thrives when no one's watching. That his best moves happen off-screen. That if he were ever to return at full capacity, it would be on his terms. This encounter with Roman feels like that moment. Like the beginning of the end. Or the end of a beginning. And make no mistake, the stakes are legacy level. Orton's not going to win another title by climbing a ladder or winning a tournament. He knows that. But if he aligns with Reigns, if he becomes the last general in the tribal chief's broken army, he cements himself in the history books as the last person Roman trusted. The final piece of the empire. That's a role far more satisfying than another championship. Alternatively, what if this is all bait? Randy Orton has betrayed every faction he's ever been part of. Evolution. Legacy. The Authority. Rated RKO. He always makes the other guy feel safe before he ends them. If Roman accepts his help, is he really gaining a partner, or setting the timer on a slow exploding time bomb? Some fans believe this is a long con. That Orton wants to insert himself into Roman's final act. That he's not here to help. He's here to watch the empire fall from the inside, and make sure he's the one who lands the killing blow. That's the thing about Orton. You never really know. He doesn't yell his intentions. He doesn't tweet his thoughts. He just shows up. And when he does, someone always gets hurt. There's a moment at the end of the leaked footage, easily missed, where Roman tilts his head slightly. Not a nod. Not agreement. But not refusal either. It's the kind of gesture that says, I don't trust you, but I might need you. And Orton? He just walks away. No follow-up. No clarification. Just those 5 words and then the silence. It's brilliant. It's terrifying. And it's exactly what makes this chapter of the story so compelling. Because we don't know what Orton wants. But we know this, he's back. He's dangerous. And for the first time in a long time, Randy Orton isn't just a legend in the background. He's a player again. A viper in the grass. And Roman Reigns? He just might be the one closest to the fangs. The camera angle is bad. The lighting is worse. There's a flicker at the bottom of the screen, the timestamp is partially cut off, and the resolution is so low you can't tell if you're watching 2 WWE superstars or 2 ghosts in hoodies. But it's real. That's the first thing people need to understand. The footage is not part of a storyline segment. It's not a backstage promo with perfect lighting and scripted dialogue. It's raw. Silent. It wasn't meant to be seen, and that's exactly why it matters. It surfaced less than 8 hours before Money in the Bank 2025 was scheduled to air. Originally posted on a small wrestling fan Discord, it was grainy cell phone footage of a monitor in the security office at the O2 Arena. Within 10 minutes, it had jumped to Reddit. From there, Twitter. Within an hour, it was everywhere. Some thought it was staged. Others insisted it was a deepfake. But within 3 hours, WWE's official X account issued a vague statement, "We are aware of unauthorized security footage circulating online." No further comment at this time. That's when it got real. The footage runs about 37 seconds. In that time, you see a shadowed figure step into the left corner of a backstage hallway. Arms crossed, shoulders hunched slightly. He's waiting. That's clear from the start. He's not lost. He's not wandering. He's calculated. Intentional. That's Randy Orton. From the right side of the screen, Roman Reigns walks in. Slowly. His posture is rigid. His eyes scan the hallway before locking onto Orton. They don't speak immediately. There's at least 8 seconds of silence. In TV time, that's an eternity. Then Orton steps forward. No sudden movement. No aggression. His head tilts slightly forward, chin down. It's a position of subtle dominance, close enough to be heard, far enough to avoid confrontation. And that's when it happens. 5 words. Softly. No mic to catch them. But multiple lip readers online, including ex-WWE producer Jimmy Hart on a podcast that dropped just hours after the footage leaked, confirmed it. "Let me help you, Roman." No threat. No smirk. No sarcasm. Just quiet, calculated precision. Roman doesn't respond audibly. But his reaction says enough. His brow lowers. He shifts his weight slightly, left foot back, defensive stance. He doesn't step forward, but he doesn't retreat either. He studies Orton like he's reading a text he doesn't quite understand. Then Orton takes a step back, turns, and walks away. No follow-up. No conditions. Just a message delivered and an exit made. This wasn't a conversation. It was a move. And in that move, Orton did something no one else has done in months. He made Roman Reigns look uncertain. The internet went into full detective mode. Fans enhanced the footage. Analyzed shadows. Timed steps. Some even tried to triangulate audio using ambient mic picks from security cameras further down the corridor. It was obsessive. It was ridiculous. But it was also revealing. Because the deeper people looked, the more questions emerged. Why was Orton there? He wasn't on the card. He wasn't part of any announced segment. In fact, his last appearance was a six-man tag on SmackDown 3 weeks earlier, where he'd vanished after the bell. WWE had been radio silent since. Now he's backstage, alone, with the most dominant figure in modern wrestling history? Something's happening. But here's the most disturbing thing. The footage wasn't supposed to leak. Security footage like this doesn't just fall into fans' hands. It means someone inside that building wanted the world to see it. That someone thought this moment was big enough to risk fines, termination, or worse. Which makes you wonder, was it Paul Heyman? A rogue staffer? Was it a plant from Orton himself? If you believe the more paranoid corners of the internet, this was part of Orton's psychological warfare. A mind game to spook not just Roman, but the entire roster. Show the footage. Let it spread. Get everyone talking. Turn 5 quiet words into a storm. That's exactly what's happened. Superstars have gone on record saying the locker room saw the footage before the show. Some claim it disrupted pre-match meetings. Others say it sparked shouting matches behind the curtain. Nobody knew what it meant. Nobody knew what Roman would do. Even Heyman looked rattled. And when Paul Heyman looks rattled, it's time to panic. He was reportedly pulled into a closed-door meeting with producers less than 90 minutes after the leak. No phones. No media. When he came out, he wasn't walking with Roman. He wasn't talking. He was pacing. For a man who usually controls every narrative he touches, Heyman looked like he'd just lost his grip. And that's what makes this so dangerous. The footage isn't clear. But it's clear enough. It shows us that Roman Reigns is no longer the one dictating the terms. For years, Roman has thrived by staying 10 steps ahead. He's orchestrated betrayals, dominated rivals, and carried the entire company on his shoulders. But this moment, the moment where he's approached quietly, suddenly, by a ghost from his past, that's a moment he didn't create. He didn't control. It came for him. Randy Orton didn't shout his intentions. He whispered them. And somehow, that made them louder. That's the true power of the footage. Not what's seen, but what's felt. The tension. The shift. The unsaid. You can frame by frame this clip 1,000 times. You won't find a heel turn. You won't find a declaration of war. What you'll find is something more subtle, more insidious: leverage. Orton walked into that hallway knowing what Roman needed: backup. Relevance. Belief. He didn't offer sympathy. He offered strategy. And that's what makes this so brilliant. He offered Roman Reigns exactly what he needed to hear. But not for Roman's sake. For his own. Because the viper doesn't help. He hunts. And right now, Roman Reigns may be the most vulnerable prey in the jungle. The question remains, did Roman accept the offer? That part, we don't know. The footage ends. Orton walks away. Roman stands alone. Not triumphant. Not defiant. Still. Watching. Thinking. And just like that, WWE has a new kind of cliffhanger. Not a match. Not a finish. Not a return. A hallway. A moment. A message. And a viper on the loose. WWE is a chessboard. Every promo, every stare down, every handshake or sucker punch, it's all part of the game. And no one plays it better than Randy Orton. When Randy said, "Let me help you, Roman," he wasn't offering assistance. He was making a move. Orton has never been a team player unless there's something in it for him. Whether in Evolution, Legacy, Rated RKO, or The Authority, he's used alliances as weapons. Tools to position himself one step ahead, only to detonate them when the timing was right. Every time he's offered help, there's been a price. This time, the price might be the soul of WWE itself. Let's look at why Orton made this move now. Roman Reigns is not at his peak. Physically, he's still a titan. But emotionally? Strategically? He's unstable. The bloodline collapsed under the weight of ego and betrayal. Jay and Jimmy walked. Solo Sikoa is off in his own orbit, rumored to be aligning with Paul Heyman behind Roman's back. Roman, once surrounded by loyalty, now walks through corridors alone. That isolation is dangerous, not just for Roman, but for everyone around him. Because isolation breeds paranoia. And paranoia leads to desperation. Orton can smell desperation. He's thrived off it for years. He's made a career of preying on wrestlers just as they're slipping. When they're vulnerable, when they're unsure, when they're still powerful enough to matter but weak enough to need someone. That's where Roman is now. Orton didn't come to offer friendship. He came to offer a lifeline Roman would be foolish to refuse. The genius lies in the timing. Had Orton come to Roman 6 months ago, he would have been laughed off. Reigns had the bloodline, the gold, the aura. He didn't need anyone. Now, things are different. Now, he does need help. Even if he won't say it out loud. So why offer help instead of going in for the kill? Because Randy Orton doesn't attack the surface. He infects the foundation. A direct challenge? That's what the rookies do. The Breakers and the Reeds and the Knights, they bark, they threaten, they charge. Orton doesn't need to do that. He waits until the target invites him in. He knows the only way to bring down someone like Roman Reigns is from the inside. And what better way than to pose as the solution to Roman's problem? Now let's flip the perspective. Roman isn't stupid. He knows Orton. He's faced him. He's watched what Orton does to those who let their guard down. He's seen the RKOs out of nowhere. He's seen the mind games. So why didn't he shut Orton down? Why didn't he walk away? Because part of him might actually believe he needs Randy. That's the most dangerous thing about psychological warfare. It only works when the target is already uncertain. Roman is uncertain. His empire is crumbling. He's surrounded by enemies, some loud, some lurking. And Orton offers clarity. Strategy. Support. It's manipulative. But it's also appealing. Think about it, no Usos. No Solo. No guaranteed allies. And now, out of nowhere, a potential partner who knows how to win, how to dominate, how to destroy. Who better to join forces with than the man who's destroyed more champions than anyone in the last 20 years? Roman may hate Orton. He may not trust him. But in that hallway, in that moment, he didn't dismiss him. And that hesitation? That's all Orton needed. Let's break down what Randy might actually want. Theory 1, he wants to bring Roman close just to betray him when it matters most. That's classic Orton. Get the upper hand. Earn the trust. Then, when Roman finally lowers his guard. Strike. Steal the title. Cement the legacy. Theory 2, he actually wants an alliance. Not forever. Not out of friendship. But out of mutual gain. Roman needs muscle and mind games. Orton needs spotlight and power. Together, they neutralize threats like Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, or even Cody Rhodes. It's the classic enemy of my enemy is my friend scenario. Theory 3, it's not about Roman at all. It's about Paul Heyman. That one's darker. But it's possible. Orton and Heyman have a long, complicated history. They've been on opposite sides of wars. They've been aligned. Orton may see Roman not as a partner, but as a pawn, part of a long game to destabilize Heyman's grip on WWE's power structure. If Orton can win Roman's trust, he essentially puts Heyman in check. That's a move someone like Orton would savor. There's also the possibility that this is personal. Maybe Orton sees Roman's dominance as hollow. Maybe he resents the run Reigns has had. The accolades. The main events. The protected storylines. Orton was once the company's golden boy. Now, Roman is. This could be about legacy. About pride. About proving that Randy Orton isn't done yet, and never should have been counted out. So where does this go? That's the question keeping the locker room up at night. If Roman accepts Orton's offer, the landscape shifts immediately. No one is safe. Not Rollins. Not Reed. Not Breakker. Not even Cody Rhodes. An Orton-Reigns tandem would be the most dangerous alliance since the peak of the bloodline, because unlike the bloodline, this one wouldn't be built on loyalty. It would be built on strategy. And strategy is scarier than loyalty. But if Roman refuses? Then we're looking at a viper with wounded pride. And that's arguably worse. Because Orton doesn't beg. He doesn't repeat himself. If Roman turns him down, Orton won't forget. He'll wait. He'll find the moment. And he'll strike. That's what makes this story so gripping. There are no heroes here. No saints. Just two apex predators circling the same prize, and the audience has no idea which one is hunting the other. Orton made the first move. Roman didn't respond. And in that silence, the mind games begin. Not with weapons. Not with promos. With questions. Questions like, what does Orton really want? Can Roman survive another betrayal? What happens when two of the most dangerous minds in wrestling history start reading each other? And who gets played? This is bigger than a match. Bigger than a storyline. This is a psychological war. And it's already begun. WWE has seen surprises. Returns. Betrayals. Shock victories. But few moments send a pulse of confusion, dread, and speculation through an entire locker room quite like a Randy Orton-Roman Reigns handshake waiting to happen. The footage didn't just leak online. It spread through the backstage area like fire in dry brush. Wrestlers stopped mid-workout. Agents paused their meetings. Production staff left rehearsal halls early just to whisper in clusters near catering. In less than an hour, the energy in the O2 arena shifted from anticipation to pure unease. Because no one knew what was happening. And worse, no one knew what it meant. Start with Paul Heyman. Heyman has built his empire on control. He's the architect behind Roman's dominance. The whisperer in the dark who turned a silent Samoan powerhouse into a tribal god. He anticipates every threat, plans 6 moves ahead, and molds narratives like wet clay. So when Heyman is caught off guard, it doesn't just rattle him, it rattles the entire structure he's built. Eyewitnesses backstage described Heyman as pale. Silent. Pacing a tight 4-foot radius in front of Roman's private locker room, mumbling to himself. He made 3 phone calls in 5 minutes. One to Hunter, one to security, one assumed to be internal communications. His eyes never stopped scanning the hallway. Why? Because Heyman knows what Randy Orton is capable of. More importantly, he knows what Roman is capable of when he starts doubting the people closest to him. And make no mistake, Heyman was already skating on thin ice. The bloodline fell apart on his watch. Solo Sikoa's allegiance is uncertain. And if Roman even considers Orton's offer, that means one thing. He's no longer listening to his wise men. For a control freak like Heyman, that's worse than betrayal. That's irrelevance. In an uncharacteristic moment of vulnerability, Heyman was reportedly heard saying to a producer, "If Randy gets in his ear, I won't be able to pull him back." Next, there's Seth Rollins. No one took the footage more personally than him. Rollins and Roman have history deeper than titles. They were brothers once, in the Shield. Then enemies. Then reluctant allies. Then enemies again. Their rivalry has been a chess match of ego and betrayal. But this? This stings on a different level. Because Seth knows Randy. Seth and Orton have their own scars. Their feud in 2015 culminated in one of the most iconic RKOs of all time at WrestleMania. Orton caught Rollins mid-air, out of a curb stomp. It wasn't just a counter, it was a statement. A reminder that Orton doesn't just outfight people. He outthinks them. And if Seth Rollins, right now arguably WWE's most beloved babyface, is on a collision course with Roman Reigns again, then Orton's presence turns that collision into a three-way car wreck with no airbags. Sources say Rollins was visibly upset after watching the footage. He reportedly slammed a chair during his workout and ended up cutting his prep short. He hasn't addressed it publicly, but a cryptic tweet just hours before Money in the Bank read, "Snakes don't change skin. They shed it. And then they bite harder." Most took that as a direct shot at Orton. But knowing Seth? It was probably aimed at both of them. Then we have the younger lions. Bron Breakker doesn't flinch easily. The man is built like a tank and fights like a man with nothing to lose. But even he was reportedly thrown off by the Orton development. He's been positioning himself as the next big thing in WWE. A mid-win could catapult him into instant contention. But if Roman and Orton are in league? That's not a match. That's a trap. Bron is aggressive, not stupid. And he knows you don't walk into a lion's den with a spotlight on your back. According to sources, he requested a change to his entrance timing, an attempt to avoid crossing paths with either man before the main event. For someone who bulldozes his way through competition, that level of precaution speaks volumes. Bronson Reed, meanwhile, had a different reaction. Cold. Indifferent. Focused. He's not concerned about alliances. He's concerned about contact. Reed told one interviewer backstage, "They can form a damn hydra if they want. Doesn't matter. Everyone bleeds the same." But that's Reed's style. His confidence comes not from strategy, but brute force. What he lacks in politics, he makes up for in violence. Still, even he has to know that two men like Reigns and Orton, if united, don't just block your path. They erase it. Then there are the veterans. Guys like AJ Styles, Finn Balor, even LA Knight. They've seen enough to recognize a paradigm shift when it's happening. And that's exactly what this is. Styles was seen shaking his head after watching the clip. When asked if he had any thoughts, he simply said, "This isn't about alliances. This is about survival." Finn Balor posted a story with just 3 emojis, a snake, a crown, and an explosion. LA Knight, never one to miss a mic moment, told a podcast host, "Randy wants back in the game. Roman's trying not to lose it." That's not a partnership. That's a power struggle waiting to blow up. And I'm all for it, yeah. But behind the bravado, even the most seasoned superstars understand what's at stake. When Orton moves, he doesn't shake the room, he changes the rules. And if Roman buys in? Then the rules don't just change. They disappear. Production staff were also reportedly on edge. Producers spent hours rearranging camera setups and lighting grids, preparing for possible impromptu segments. Agents reworked finish options for multiple matches, anticipating chaos. Even referees were briefed on potential unscheduled activity. Because when Orton hovers, anything can happen. That's the backstage reality. Everyone is watching Roman now. Every gesture. Every facial twitch. Every match note. Because the question is no longer if he'll respond to Orton's offer. The question is how. Will he accept it publicly? Will they walk out together? Will Roman deny it? But then have Orton run in when things go south in the main event? Will Orton RKO him mid-match? No one knows. And that's what makes it so volatile. The locker room isn't scared of Orton or Reigns individually. They've faced them. They've survived them. What scares them is the unknown. This is a world where alliances are expected. But this alliance? This is the unexpected. And in WWE, the unexpected is what makes champions lose titles. careers end, and eras collapse. Randy Orton didn't just re-enter the conversation. He hijacked it. And now, everyone's waiting for Roman to speak. But Roman Reigns isn't speaking. He's watching. Listening. Thinking. And that silence? That's what's driving everyone crazy. In the hours following the leaked security footage, the wrestling world didn't just react, it exploded. But as fans screamed across social platforms and the locker room simmered with tension, a different kind of energy began buzzing in the media circuit. Wrestling journalists, analysts, ex-wrestlers turned pundits. They didn't just see the footage as news, they saw it as a turning point. Because in their eyes, this wasn't just a backstage interaction. This was a power play. And no one understands power in WWE like the people who've spent their careers dissecting it. The first to chime in was Dave Meltzer. Known for his decades-long pulse on the business, Meltzer went on Wrestling Observer Radio and dropped a statement that turned heads. If this is legit, and everything I'm hearing says it is, then we're watching the start of Roman Reigns' final phase. Not because he's fading, but because he's cornered. When Randy Orton steps into your story, it's because he wants the last word. He's not joining Roman. He's infiltrating him. That idea, that Orton isn't forming an alliance but engineering a collapse, has since gained serious traction. Fightful Sean Ross Sapp followed with a tweet that added fuel to the fire. Just spoke to 2 sources backstage at MITB. Orton's approach is being seen by some in creative as a test run for a summer-long psychological arc. This isn't a feud, it's an infection. If Roman takes the bait, expect everything around him to rot. Former WWE writer Freddie Prinze Jr. went even deeper on his podcast, Wrestling with Freddie. You gotta understand something about Randy. He doesn't need a faction. He becomes one. He's like a virus. First, he plays the role of backup. Then, he becomes the strategist. Then, without anyone noticing, he's running the show. Roman's smart, but even he might not see this trap until it's too late. The comparisons came quickly. ESPN wrestling analyst Tim Fioravanti likened the potential partnership to historic power duos gone wrong. This has Triple H and Batista written all over it. Orton might start at Roman's side, but don't be surprised if he's standing over him by SummerSlam. These aren't alliances built on friendship. They're chess moves built on ego. And it's not just the veterans who are weighing in. Younger voices are seeing this moment as a generational clash. Renee Paquette, former WWE commentator and now a lead analyst on the sessions, summed it up like this: Roman is trying to maintain a legacy. Orton is trying to remind everyone he still is one. That's the real story here. It's not about who they take out, it's about who history remembers. And they both want to be the one standing at the end. Former WWE champion Booker T was less subtle. I don't trust Randy as far as I can throw him. And I've thrown a lot of people. Roman better not blink. The second he does, RKO out of nowhere, and you're waking up looking at the lights. Even industry insiders from outside WWE are taking notice. Eric Bischoff, never one to mince words, called it a dangerous shift in storytelling. WWE's playing with legacy. When you put 2 icons together this late in their arc, it's either going to be magic or madness. I don't think they know which one they want yet. That's the fun, and the risk. Jim Cornette, notoriously critical of modern WWE, actually praised the move. It's old school. It's psychology. You got a viper and a king. One whispers while the other rules. You don't need explosions for that to work. You just need silence and tension. And right now, WWE has both. From a technical perspective, wrestling psychologist and former trainer Al Snow offered a different kind of insight. Wrestling's about perception. Roman's perception has been dominance. Untouchable. Alone at the top. The moment Orton walks into frame, that perception cracks. Now people are asking, does Roman need help? That's damaging. Even if he never accepts it, just the idea that he might? That plants doubt. And that's lethal in this business. Meanwhile, fan-led platforms and analysts have started comparing this to some of WWE's most infamous power duos. The Shield. DX, The Authority. Rated RKO. But most agree, this is different. Because this time, both men know exactly what the other is capable of. There's no naivety. No manipulation. No illusions of loyalty. Just two apex predators, choosing, for now, to circle each other instead of bite. YouTuber and wrestling analyst Jade from NY summed it up perfectly in a livestream. You know what this is? It's two wolves sitting across from each other at a fire, pretending they're not hungry. But they are. And they both know, eventually, only one's walking away. Even sports networks are chiming in. Fox Sports ran a segment on WWE's most dangerous alliances and placed Orton-Reigns at number 1, before they've even officially aligned. That's how big this moment is. It's not just about what's been done. It's about the threat of what could happen. Because right now, the alliance isn't real. It's implied. Teased. Whispered. But in wrestling, implication is often louder than confirmation. And that's what analysts are saying most of all, this moment isn't about what's happening. It's about what's coming. The slow turn. The reluctant partnership. The sudden betrayal. The eventual implosion. Because no matter what happens next, whether they shake hands, join forces, or RKO each other into the mat, this story is now bigger than the titles, bigger than MITB, even bigger than WrestleMania. This is about legacy. Two men standing at the end of their prime, asking the same question, who goes down as the last real king of this era? And if the experts agree on anything, it's that the answer won't come clean. It'll come with blood. With betrayal. With mind games that leave careers in ashes. Because this isn't just another story. This is a slow-motion coup. And the experts? They're not just watching. They're counting down. The matches are locked in. The briefcase is hanging. The graphics are ready to air. On paper, everything looks stable heading into Money in the Bank 2025. But it's not. It's anything but stable. Because now, a ghost has entered the picture. Randy Orton has walked into Roman Reigns' orbit with 5 words that shattered any illusion of certainty. Let me help you, Roman. And now, no one, not fans, not superstars, not producers, knows what's going to happen. It's rare for a WWE pay-per-view to feel this unpredictable. Most major events follow a pattern. Build up, conflict, payoff. But this one? This feels more like standing in the center of a ticking time bomb. So, what are the most plausible outcomes? Let's break down the top 3 scenarios heading into MITB, and what each one could mean for the future of WWE. Scenario A, Orton turns on Roman mid-match. This is the one everyone's bracing for. It's classic Randy. A timeless move pulled straight from his playbook of betrayal. Roman, already dealing with a high-stakes title defense or interference in a Money in the Bank cash-in, suddenly finds himself cornered, and Orton, who promised help, delivers the exact opposite. Picture this. The lights go down mid-match. The crowd gasps. Music hits, or maybe it doesn't. Orton appears, walks to the ring slowly. Roman's opponents freeze. Even the referee hesitates. Roman sees him. There's a beat, a moment where everything slows down. Orton nods. Then, RKO. Out of nowhere. Roman's body crashes to the mat. Orton walks away. Rollins pins Roman. New champion. Crowd erupts. Chaos. If WWE wants to create a SummerSlam main event with sky-high tension, this is the move. Roman now has motivation to destroy Orton. Heyman is scrambling to recover the throne. The title picture is wide open. And Orton? He just pulled off the most memorable swerve since Seth Rollins swung a chair in 2014. But this isn't just about shock value. There's deeper logic here. Orton's return needs weight. An RKO to Reigns' mid-title defense is more than a pop, it's a statement. It tells the world Orton's not here to play backup. He's here to reclaim territory. And no one plants a flag more violently than Randy Orton. Scenario B, Orton helps Roman win clean. It sounds insane. But that's what makes it interesting. Roman, for the first time in years, genuinely needs help. No bloodline. No Solo. No Jimmy or Jay. No guaranteed path to victory. And if Orton really does show up at MITB and helps him fend off interference or survive a cash-in, without turning on him, it sets the stage for something far more sinister. An actual alliance. Two alphas. Two manipulators. Two apex predators deciding to hunt together. Imagine the finish. Rollins is seconds away from hitting the stomp. Orton slides in. RKO. Reigns spears Rollins. 1, 2, 3. No betrayal. Just teamwork. The crowd's stunned. Afterward, Roman doesn't raise Orton's hand. He doesn't hug him. He just stares. Nods. Walks away. Orton stands there, calm, almost emotionless. That's a nightmare scenario for the locker room. Because now you're looking at a new superpower. The tribal chief and the viper. Reigns with the gold. Orton in his ear. The cerebral and the savage united. Suddenly, there's no room left at the top. It also gives WWE creative endless possibilities. A cold-blooded duo controlling the company from the shadows. Interfering in title matches. Manipulating MITB briefcase holders. Turning babyfaces against each other. It's faction warfare without the numbers. Just two icons slowly choking the life out of the roster. It's dangerous. It's fresh. And it's absolutely terrifying. Scenario C, Roman rejects Orton and pays for it later. In this version, Roman says no. Maybe not out loud, but through his actions. No handshake. No nod. No eye contact. At MITB, Orton stays out of it. Watches from a monitor. Maybe gives a short interview where he says something cryptic like, "I offered. Now I wait." Roman fights alone. He might win. He might survive a cash-in. Maybe he even dominates. But the shadow remains. Then, at the worst possible moment. Raw, SmackDown, SummerSlam, Randy strikes. Not because Roman wronged him. But because Roman underestimated him. That's the ultimate Orton payoff. Patient, punishing, inevitable. A rejection of help leads not to bitterness, but to opportunity. Orton lets Roman believe he's safe. Then waits until the very moment Roman is rebuilding confidence, and that's when he strikes. The RKO won't come with a promo. It won't come with warning. It'll come like a snake bite in the dark. And when it lands, Roman won't even realize it's over until he's already staring at the lights. This scenario gives WWE something else too, time. It stretches the narrative. It lets Reigns focus on current threats, Rollins, Breakker, Reed, while Orton waits in the wings. It keeps audiences guessing. And it gives Randy the one thing he loves more than the RKO, control. Because when you're not part of the match, when you're not even part of the conversation, but you still control the outcome? That's real power. Bonus scenarios the experts are whispering about. There are a few outside-the-box ideas floating around. None confirmed, but all possible. One involves Orton siding with neither Roman nor his enemies, but instead with someone else entirely, like Solo Sikoa. The idea? Orton plants chaos by supporting whoever causes Roman the most pain. That could include helping Solo turn completely against his cousin, then taking out Solo once the Empire collapses. Another has Cody Rhodes involved. If Orton helps Roman retain now, it gives Cody someone else to conquer before finishing his story. Remember, Cody and Randy have history, legacy. This could be Orton's return to relevance while also setting the table for Cody to climb through Reigns and Orton to finally reach the throne. And then there's the chaos theory. Randy does nothing. Absolutely nothing. No run-in. No interference. Just silence. He lets the speculation rot the locker room from the inside. Everyone thinks he's coming. Everyone adjusts. Roman gets paranoid. Rollins gets cautious. Breakker gets aggressive. And in the confusion, someone else cashes in and walks out champion. Orton loses nothing. But he changes everything. Why this moment is so dangerous? What makes this storyline so volatile is its uncertainty. WWE thrives on control. On build-ups and payoffs. But this time, they've seeded a story where no one knows the finish. Not the audience. Not the locker room. Possibly not even Roman himself. And when a man like Randy Orton is left unchecked, when he moves in silence, when he doesn't announce his intentions, that's when careers end. Because if history has taught us anything, it's this: you don't prepare for Randy Orton. You just brace for the fallout.